Hello and welcome to the Game Week 12 edition of the Stakehouse coming to you. I'm Conor McCabe. I'm joined once again by my co-host, the man with the model, just back fresh from his honeymoon. It's Lucas Kaczynski. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. Hopefully you can see that I've got a bit more of a tan now. But yeah, honeymoon was amazing. Really glad to be back. Didn't manage to watch any football, unfortunately. Didn't get permission from the wife, but
What's new?
yeah, exactly.
And
But
for
yeah,
all of
apart from
you,
that, all good, mate.
for all
Good
of
to
you
be
out
back
there
into rainy
only,
England.
only listening through Spotify or Apple and can't witness Lucas's tan in person, you're the lucky ones. But glad to hear it went well, mate. And I'll tell you something else that's going well. The tips on this
Yeah,
podcast. I
printing
mean,
money,
printing money. If
literally
you're not
printing.
following us now, what are you doing? Last game week was an absolute stormer. From my end, out of the 5 tips that I suggested, 3 of them landed. We had Brighton to score over 1.5 goals against Man City. We had Arsenal and Chelsea to draw at under 2.5. And we also had Fulham to win away. And that, as well as if all 3 tips landing out of 5, that came together for us in a 28-1 accumulator, which was tipped up. So anyone that got on that, send us your slips. And
Yeah,
what a winner that was. Not to blow
spread
my
the
own
wealth.
trumpet. What about you?
Yeah, so I had only 2 bets. So Brentford, Bournemouth, both teams scored in the first half. That came in. I think that was at 3.75 odds. And then the other one was Forest, draw no bet. So on Asian handicap 0. But yeah, the game went totally different than what I expected. Like Newcastle all of a sudden turning up, and Forest were, yeah, I don't think pretty poor, to be honest. They went 1-0 up, but they lost quite comfortably in the end.
Yeah, but either way, still a mad week of profit for the pods. I
Yeah.
think we've hit 3 massive weeks of profit out of 4. Long may it continue, and let's dive into
I mean,
game week
due,
12.
due a bit of a downswing, but we'll see in it.
Let's not say that. Let's think positive. And listen, before we get started, I just want to say to you, mate, the magic number is 18.
18.
18, because it's another 18 rounds of Premier League fixtures before we have to endure another international break.
All right, okay, nice. Yeah,
So,
bloody hell.
good news.
March now. Thank God for that.
That's the next one. But while there was not much to talk about on the pitch, there was a hell of a lot to talk about off
Yeah.
it with regards to this break that we've had. And as we go through the fixtures and tipping up some results for you, we'll also address some of the big issues that came into play. And we'll do one of them right now before we actually launch into the games, because it can't really be tied to any fixture per se. And it's the point about Harry Kane effectively choosing to dig out his England teammates for what he perceives as a lack of commitment in terms of not reporting for international duty during those couple of fixtures. Now, what's your take on that? Because from my perspective, I'm not really sure what he's trying to achieve here.
I mean, I don't blame him for his comments, to be honest. It's clear that some players just don't want to. Basically, they just play for England just to play the big tournaments and the qualifiers, right? End of the day, they don't want to play Nations League or anything like that. And it's clear that all these players don't have injuries. They just, they just want a rest from the chaotic schedule that's coming in the next 4 or 5 weeks, right? There's like so many games coming thick and fast, right? So, yeah, I understand where he's coming from. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird comment to make, I'd say.
I mean, it's just a bit strong, apart from anything else. I think that the captain of England has a responsibility to promote a culture of positivity among the group. And if I'm one of those players that's not been able to report for duty, and by the way, quite a few, I think there was 8 players in total, and I think I knew 4 or 5 for certain that had niggles at the very least, or reported niggles, let's say that, right? If I'm one of those players who's then reading in the coverage, in the media, that my captain has effectively called me out for apparently not being bothered enough to turn up, I'm really not pleased about that. I'm not happy. And what Kane's actually doing there is inviting the media to take more of a swipe at England and again, rubber stamp them with this notion that England aren't committed and aren't looking to, caring enough about playing for their country and all of these kind of things. If Kane really has an issue about this, surely you deal with it in-house.
I mean, maybe he did. Maybe he's done that, right? Like, he's the captain. He's got a good relationship with everyone. Like, I'm sure he's tried to do it, or he's had conversations, but he's obviously felt a need to make a statement, right? Which is fair play. Like, it always happens. Like, it's happened numerous times, right? And he's getting pissed off about it.
I'm not convinced it should ever get to that. There's always a different solution. Rather than inviting further pressure on your teammates, a lot of them young teammates, don't forget a lot of these players are getting massive pressure off their club to ensure that they're not going away getting injuries. They don't get the same winter break that Harry Kane gets, by the way. He's one of the few players in England's squad that gets that. England don't even have a manager installed yet, right?
Well, maybe that's why Kane said it, right?
Why though?
Why not?
Well, again, for these reasons, it doesn't promote a good culture. For me, it looks like Harry Kane's trying to endear himself too much to the English public and the English media. Look at me, Mr. Captain Fantastic. Look how committed I am. And yeah, I'm going to represent the nation in calling out players who apparently don't care. And for me, it's protecting and covering his own back at the expense of the team.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand your opinion, your viewpoints and stuff, but I don't really have I don't think what he did is that bad, to be honest.
Players calling each other players calling other players that they play with out in the media, it never ends well. Just like when a manager calls a player out in the media, it never ends well. Usually for that manager that's called the player out.
I mean, they smashed Ireland 5-0, so it looks like it kind of worked well.
It's Ireland. Anybody could have smashed Ireland 5-0. Irish football is in the absolute doldrums, and that's coming from a half Irishman. England is still full of talent and full of ability, but ultimately there's a new manager about to walk through the door. If he wants to make these kind of messages, let him make them. It was just unnecessary for Kane to do what he did, in my opinion. Anyway, let's move on and let's talk actual fixtures taking place this weekend. We're going to start with Leicester-Chelsea. Early kickoff. That should be a cracker.
I mean, don't rate Leicester at all, to be honest. I'd imagine it's two. I think Chelsea are going to win this pretty comfortably, to be honest, by probably at least a goal. You've obviously tipped them up to previously to win the league, right? And I think they played quite well against Chelsea.
Against Arsenal.
Against Arsenal. It's my jet lag kicking in. Chelsea against Chelsea, yeah. Played well against Arsenal, so I feel like they're just going to win this comfortably, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it will be fairly comfortable. I also do think, though, that there will be goals. And I think when you're looking at trying to call the exact scoreline of a game like this, it's definitely worth looking at previous patterns. Chelsea have gone away to lower opposition and won handsomely a lot of those games. You look at 4-1 away at Panathinaikos. You look at 6-2 away at Wolves this season. They've tended to be very free scoring in these kind of matches and not being razor tight at the other end. For Leicester's side, they've scored a couple of goals in games against Arsenal, a couple of goals in games against United. And I think this has got another feel of a Chelsea high-scoring win all over it. I think I can almost pinpoint the exact score for this one as well. I'm way too confident that this game is going to finish 4-2 to Chelsea. Like, that is, I would almost...
4-2.
I'm tempted to tip it up as an exact scoreline, but I'm not that daft, right? But I do have an official tip, and it's Chelsea to win and both teams to score, which comes in at a very tidy 7-4. And I think that's a very good runner. So that's my first official tip. And look at getting a few Chelsea players, attacking players, that is, in your fantasy teams this weekend is a tip on that one. So that's the first one. Let's move on. We've got Bournemouth versus Brighton. And I know you've got a vested interest in this one, so take it away.
Yeah, I line up Bournemouth actually minus a quarter. So basically what that means is if it's a draw, then you get half your money back. If they win, you win. You can get on Pinnacle, you can get 2.11. So yeah, just above even. So quite a good price. I think Bournemouth have been really good. Obviously Brentford managed to beat them 3-2, but if you look at the XG, like Bournemouth completely smashed Brentford, and I feel like Brentford were quite fortunate to win that game. The XG difference was over 1, so Brentford had 1.48 and Bournemouth had 2.58, so massive. I know also Bournemouth have a few injuries, I think, potentially. Semenyo, however you pronounce his
The
name.
menu.
Semenyo. I think
You're
he's a
living that
doubt.
one on the jet lag as well, are you?
Yeah. Hey, English is not my first language, mate. So, yeah, he's a doubt. So, but I'm hoping he's going to play. But also Brighton have a lot of doubts. I think Dunk's not been playing recently. He's still a doubt and stuff like that. So I feel like, even if he doesn't play, I think like it's still probably good value. So yeah, I'd go Bournemouth minus a quarter.
Official tip?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, look, my view on this, I think Semenyo was a massive loss for Bournemouth. He is
Yeah.
an insane
He's huge.
footballer.
Yeah.
So that would really worry me in terms of that bet. I also think I watched Brighton play against City, obviously because I had such a vested interest in my tip from last week, and they were really, really good. Like City came into that game looking to send a
Yeah.
message off the back of losing 3, and Brighton were great. And I think Herzler actually he's going up and up and up in my opinion as a coach. Like they were behind at half time. City were playing okay, but there was no panic, and it was just kind of, he did a halftime interview, and the way that he conducted himself through that, just such an epitome of calmness, and I just really rated it. I think Brighton are going places again under a new coach. I think that Bournemouth are obviously playing very well and in a good moment. I feel like this could be any result. I wouldn't be surprised if of any of the 3 outcomes. So personally, I won't touch it. But you have an official tip there coming
Yep.
straight from the model itself. So go well to the cherries. Villa versus Palace. I've got an awful lot to say personally on this one, but ultimately, I think the international break may have done Villa some good in terms of just getting a few players back, getting them rested. I know John McGinn had a big workout for Scotland, but aside from that, I don't think there was any. I think a lot of players will have been able to actually squeeze a little battery recharge in there, which could benefit them at home to Palace. I don't see a huge amount of value in this game. I'm still not impressed by Palace. I just think the loss of Michael Elise is something that they're not going to recover from.
Yeah.
I just can't get my head around that. I don't get me wrong. I know they had no choice but to sell him, but it just leaves them in a pickle. I think it'll be a comfortable home win. If you want an exact scoreline, I'd go something along the lines of 3-1 Villa. And if you force the tip out of me, I'd probably look at something like Villa half-time, full-time. I think Villa will start sharply, but aside from that, I won't be tipping it officially.
Same. Right. Happy to move to the next game.
Cool. All right. So we look at Arsenal versus Forest. What have you got?
Yeah, I think Arsenal. I mean, if Forest didn't have such a poor game against Newcastle, I'd be thinking Forest could come into this and cause a bit of an upset. But obviously, I've been backing them quite a bit this season, and it's been fairly profitable, I'd say. They look good. I do rate them. I think the manager's doing a great job. I think Arsenal will have enough to win this game, and I think they'll win it, but probably by a goal or something like that. I can't see a big margin. Bless me.
Okay. I think this is a really interesting game, actually. This is must-win for Arsenal. Agree?
Yeah.
Don't win this game, title's gone. That's how I see this. I also think that I said it myself, Forest v Newcastle. I know you tipped it officially, and the data was there to back it up. I just felt like the Newcastle game was was a bridge too far for them. But it came at a good time because it had a chance to then reset after the international break.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember what Forest did after the first game back after the international break? Not the one immediately before, but the one a few weeks before that?
No.
They went away to Anfield and they won 1-0, and they fully deserved to win that game 1-0. Nuno went there with a great game plan, and he popped Elanga, and
What? Sorry, when was this? This was
straight after the very first international break of the season.
in September. Okay.
Yeah, and he put on Elanga, he put on Hudson-Odoi later on, and they pinched it. Well, I say pinched, but they fully deserved to win. I still think Arsenal, still not in a great moment getting players back. Maybe the international break will have been good for them. Look, I'm not tipping it up, but I would say don't touch the 1-4 on Arsenal with a barge pole. That's still what I would say. And I think if you are going to have a swing either way, find yourself a little Forest angle. Maybe an unders prediction as well. Forest, we know, don't concede an awful lot of goals. The onus isn't on them to go after this. So I feel like if you wanted to look at something like under 2.5 even for this sort of game, that wouldn't be a terrible
Yeah,
shot.
I mean, I'd say like if you're looking to back Forest in this game, I'd just go plus 1.5.
Just do the Asian.
On
Yeah.
the Asian handicaps, basically that means if they lose by 1, you win. So yeah,
I wouldn't put people off that bet at all. At all. I'd be very close to making that official. Not quite, but close. I think it's not far
why don't we
away.
both just go official on it now then?
Shall we?
Yeah, done.
All right. Okay.
Forest plus half.
Forest plus,
You can shop around on prices, but you can get around 1.85.
so that's Forest plus 1.5. So effectively,
Yeah.
we need Forest to either lose by 1 goal or greater. And I actually think that's a really good bet, because if you offered Arsenal 1-0 now,
Yeah, they'll
I
take
think
it.
I think they'd take it.
1-0 to the Arsenal. Right.
Yeah, back in the day. All right, there you go. So there we go. I've got another official bet. Thanks for roping me in.
Anytime.
Let's move on. We'll look at Everton versus Brentford. You've got a Brentford shirt on. Come on, talk them up.
Not going to touch this with a barge pole. Brentford got a few doubts actually, and Buemo, Vissa, quite big doubts. I don't know again if Pinnock as well. I don't know again if it's like, similar to what Kane was talking about for their national team, whether players have just been like, look, I don't want to go, especially because those players I mentioned, they'll be travelling far, right? They're going to be going to like Africa and stuff like that. So it's not it's not a quick journey to Europe. So so hopefully it's not serious injuries. Saying that though, I do have a tip similar to last week. It's going to be both teams to score in the first half, and the price is 4.46. So
I think there's goals in this.
quite a big game, quite a big price. And Brentford not being great defensively and being quite good attacking wise. So yeah, I feel like that's not a bad price.
Okay, interesting. So I don't trust Everton at all when it comes to scoring goals. I just think they're way too heavily reliant on Dwight McNeil. I think if he doesn't fire, then I don't think Everton fire. Calvert-Lewin up front just looks so short of confidence, to the point now where he probably shouldn't be starting. They should probably be having Beto in ahead of him. I think that Everton are okay when it comes to really grinding out a result, but it doesn't scream goals in this for me whatsoever.
No?
I do have an official tip as well.
Yeah.
And I hear your concerns in terms of Wissa and Buemo.
Yeah, go on.
But I just think, first of all, I think that at least one of them will play, right? If not both.
Yeah.
And I think that Brentford have got too much firepower for Everton. I know that Brentford's away record is diabolical, but
Yeah.
that's due to
Worse
change.
than San Marino's away record.
But it's every record's there to be broken, and so it depends what way you want to look at it. But I still think that when you're looking at Everton at 6-5, I just think it's too heavily inflated in favour of them, the market. So you can get Brentford at plus a quarter at 1.87. Or you can back them outright to win at 3.15. I'd almost go actually. Screw that. Let's go outright. I'm going to tip them up outright to
Really, I mean,
win that game.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not convinced, but I mean, hopefully they win, obviously, but I can't see it.
Everton haven't shown an awful lot to make me that impressed. Brentford are much more free scoring than Everton.
Only at home.
Yeah, I'd
Well,
still
scoring a bit away, but can't hold on to a lead to save their lives, right?
correct. I just don't think that the price of 3.15 is. Sorry, I do think that it's one to attack. Considering that if you put these teams, if in terms of quality throughout either of these teams, there's no doubt Brentford have more quality. So based on that rationale, I'm going to tip them at 3.15 there.
Right.
Fulham versus Wolves.
I mean, you know, Fulham really good. They're like, I feel like they're getting better and better every week. I'd imagine they're going to win this quite comfortably, to be honest. Don't rate Wolves at all. So I feel like could be even a 2-goal margin. They're still second on expected points. So goes Liverpool, Fulham, then City. So yeah, I reckon it should be a routine win for them.
It's not a nice atmosphere around Wolves at the moment. They're really getting on Gary O'Neill's back. Do you think it's justified?
I mean, they've had a hard start, right? They've played all the top teams. But I said this last season, right? Even the start of this season, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves go down. And you keep saying who's going to be the team that stay up. And it could be Ipswich, right? I think Wolves had a lot of problems last season. The results probably kind of masked some of those issues. Obviously, they lost a few players. Didn't probably replace them with decent enough level players. So, yeah. I mean, if they go to the manager, who they're going to bring in?
Which is a good other question. I mean, for me, I think he's done a reasonable job overall still. The start of the season has just been absolutely nightmarish. However, the next couple of weeks are absolutely crucial. If he loses his next 2 or 3, then I think his head is effectively quite rightly on the chopping block. And that's the fine margins of the world that we live in Premier League terms.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Southampton, right? So that was reassuring.
Who didn't? So
Newcastle didn't.
fair. But thanks for that. But I agree with you. I think it's a comfortable Fulham win. I don't have a tip for this one, but all I would say is the player markets aren't just out yet.
Actually, that's a lie. Newcastle did win that game, but they got quite lucky. Yeah, so
excellent stuff. So basically, in terms of, I don't know if you remember, but I tipped up Taylor Harwood-Bellis for Southampton to score at 18s against Wolves because I just don't trust them at set pieces. Now, the 18-1 didn't land, but for anybody keeping an eye on it, the ball did fall for him in the box of an XG of 0.17. So 17 times out of 100 he scores then, which makes an 18-1 shot actually very, very good value for money. So I'm still not fully trustworthy when it comes to Wolves at set pieces. That's actually only enhanced my appetite for backing defensive players for the opposition against them. So the player markets for Fulham aren't out yet, but I'm keeping a very, very close eye on Kenny Tete's prices as soon as they hit because he is a player that has shown a big appetite to fire them off this season. He might even be worthy of looking in the shots market because he doesn't mind striking from range as well rather than the outright goals market. Either way, keep an eye on our Twitter and make sure you've got notifications turned on because this might be a tip that I'm coming to you with closer to the fixture taking place when the prices get released. Next, we have a big one. Man City versus Spurs. And before we dive into talking about the game, we're going to talk about a player who's recently got himself in a little bit of hot water. Rodrigo Bentacur. Now, just in case you've been living under a rock, in an interview with Uruguayan television, Bentacur made a comment about his teammate and captain Heung-min Son, effectively suggesting incorrectly, well, in the spur of the moment, slip of the tongue style, that he looked very similar to his cousin, and they all look similar, or words to this effect. Bentacur immediately came out and apologized, not only to Son but the wider public, saying that he knew he'd made a mistake. He also said he knew that the book was going to get thrown at him for this. Son accepted the apology and referred to himself and Bentacur as still brothers. And now Bentacur has been banned for 7 games. What's your view on this one?
I mean, you can't be going on TV and saying that kind of stuff, right?
Simple as that? Black and white as that?
Yeah. What do you think about it?
I think that, first of all, in terms of what you can and can't say, this day and age, the lines are so thin, right? And you have to be so careful. Of course, what he said isn't acceptable, but it's so much easier to make a mistake now than it was 20 years ago or whatever. And I do believe this was a mistake. I do not believe that this was an act of...
Oh, yeah, probably.
Of Bentacur trying to be racist or insult people or anything like this. It was a genuine mistake. And we look at players and we're saying we need players to be role models. Here's the thing, though. No player is perfect, right? No role model in the world is absolutely perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. We've made mistakes today in our own separate lives. Every single person listening to this podcast has probably made a mistake today. And I would just think this should be looked at completely differently. I think this should be looked at as a positive. Bentacur realized immediately what he'd done. He accepted his actions were incorrect. He immediately reached out and apologized. Isn't that exactly what a role model is there for? Not only to try and show the way in terms of the way to behave, but also immediately acknowledging and admitting and being a big enough man to come out and say as soon as they've made mistakes. I think that is of paramount importance for any role model to be able to do. And the fact that Bentacur came out and did that, and let's just remember, there was no insulting even connotation, if you like, or derogatory language or anything like that here, right? And so for me, it also doesn't just boil down to whether or not he should be punished, but also scale of punishment. Now, if you want to punish him and feel like, despite the fact that he's acted in the right way about it, then fine, I hear it. They've sent him on an educational course. Fine. I mean, he knew exactly what he did, by the way, but if that helps people sleep at night, then fine. Now, if you want to ban him for 1 to 2 games, I'm absolutely fine with it. 3, bit of a stretch, but okay. But 7 games for this, I just think it's a massive overreaction in terms of people thinking that, taking a bit of a lazy narrative in terms of thinking they need to set an example on something like this, when in actual fact there's more than one way to view this. And to pull him out of 7 games and effectively hurt the club of Tottenham, hurt the Tottenham fans, many of whom may have booked tickets already to travel from Uruguay to watch Bentacur in future games. All of these kind of things that you have to take into consideration, which I bet haven't been. I just think that the punishment is too extreme. Anyway, that's just me. Let's talk about the game. Have you got a shout for City Spurs?
You just never know what City's going to turn up, right? I mean, they've been pretty poor last few games. I'm not sure on this one, to be honest. I mean, I feel like City have enough to win this game, and I feel like the way Tottenham play would actually suit City because they're going to be, going kind of all-out attack, right? Almost. So I feel like City should be able to win this, but I feel like it'll actually be quite a good watch this game. Yeah.
I think it should be as well. I think there should be goals. Unfortunately, so does the market. I mean, it's massively skewed in terms of goals. Yeah. So I was searching there for value and found none. I mean, obviously Bentacur is a huge loss in this game, but obviously I tipped up Brighton to score at least 2 goals against City last game week out. And I think with this one, Spurs at home is just a nightmare fixture for City here. Because, again, the one thing that we keep coming back to him, but he is so important for the way City play. And in terms of breaking up counter-attacks, making those clever fouls, nobody does it like him. Spurs are still too one-dimensional for me, but they are very good in transition. And if you want to give Andrew Postecoglou some praise, he never goes anywhere playing for a draw. He goes out to play and win football matches, and he'll go to the Etihad and attempt to win this football match. And again, I think City will try and start fast. And I definitely think with the likes of Kulusevski and his new role in midfield, I think, and running power, the likes of Brennan Johnson, the likes of Son, I think that on the break, Spurs will cause City massive problems here. There's probably no better Premier League team in transition than Spurs. As much as they're doing an awful lot wrong, that's one thing that I think that they do very, very well. And I think Spurs can get a result. So I have got another official tip on this game.
Okay.
And look, in terms of City, as I said, they came out at Brighton looking to send a message, and people were in raptures about them first half. Don't get me wrong, they were okay, but they didn't create an awful lot. They obviously scored the goal. Savinho missed a one-on-one, but that was about it in 45 minutes of football. Haaland had one other chance from a very tight angle, but I wouldn't have called it a major opportunity. And then second half, they just didn't turn up. And I just think there's a real opportunity here. Spurs in the outright markets are like 6.2 or something, which is really, really big. Now, I don't...
5.7.
Say again?
On Pinnacle, 5.7 on Pinnacle.
Yeah, they were on 6.2 on the Betfair Exchange earlier today.
Okay.
So that's obviously a huge markup. But you can also play Tottenham on the Asian hand. I'm tipping them officially. I'm going out on the 6.2. But when I come to my accumulator later, I've put them in at plus 1.25 on the Asian handicap. And what that means is if Tottenham lose by one goal, you still win half of the money of the payout. And then for a draw or a Spurs win, you get the whole lot. That's priced at 1.83. But my official tip for this one is a Spurs win at 6.2. So we move on. We've got Southampton versus Liverpool, and we've got our final controversial international break topic to talk about, and it's poor old David Coote, the referee, Liverpool's best friend of Liverpool. I mean, have you got any takes on this one? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm actually pissed off about this one for quite a bit because Sesha code, right? If you're on a sesh with someone, sort of like high profile referee, you don't record the person saying shit and publishing it and sharing it around. I think that's really bad. Like a lot of people say like stuff privately to people, right? Like everywhere, everyone does it. I say a lot of shit about you behind your back, right? Everyone does it, but you don't go. You don't go recording it.
I've got recordings. I've got recordings of you saying it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's just not on. And also, like, yeah, the thing about like him hating Klopp, right? I mean, you've seen how Klopp treats officials, right? So again, I'm not surprised. Like, I'd imagine a lot of referees don't like Klopp, just the way he, treats you. But obviously, you can't. When something like that comes out, like there's only one way to deal with it, right? And just sack him.
Yeah,
you can't have like any hint of bias towards any teams or against any teams or anything like that. So,
and that's it. His Premier League career is over. There's no doubt about it. Sorry,
yeah.
go on.
Yeah, so I just feel sorry for him because everyone. He's just kind of shared his open opinion, and I'm sure he's not, biased against any teams. But obviously now he said that, everyone's going to think that's happened. So all thanks to his so-called mate that he was sessioning with, right?
Yeah, and he's obviously been let down badly there. But you're right. I think his Premier League career has to be over because ultimately, no matter whether Liverpool are involved in games, each game affects every different club in the Premier League. You can find an angle for it no matter how hard you look, whether it's their resulting position, whether it's one of the teams playing Liverpool next week and they get a player injured, there's always an angle, and therefore it's pretty much untenable. I think you're right in terms of what you say in terms of how he's been stitched up. I also think he made a mistake. It was obviously many years ago, that video, in terms of saying what he said, and just ever on camera is just a bit of a silly mistake to make. There's also the second video, which we can't just gloss over either. And again, there's no justifying the white substance that he decided to take during the Euros in Germany. And again, look, this line is not to defend him in any way, shape, or form. It's never acceptable to do that. But I mean, after 8 years of living in London, I think I've moved away thinking I'm the only one that doesn't do it. It's like so normalized, you know. And again, it's not to excuse him in any way, but it is so accessible. It is so easy, and in terms of making that mistake. So I feel really sorry for him. I just hope he can build up his career. Maybe go abroad is the best route for him. But I think it's also worth saying that his mental health right now will be absolutely shot. So I was really happy to hear the PGMOL say that the biggest concern is his personal welfare, because he'll be in turmoil. Good. His family will be in turmoil.
Yeah.
He will be in even more turmoil, knowing what he's putting his family through. It's a rough situation. So I'm not going to tell people how to behave or how to act on social media, but I just hope they remember that. And the one last thing I'll say on this is that the wider issue is that FIFA have to take their responsibility in this, right? Because when you look at VAR and when you look at officials, FIFA deliberately ban different leagues from playing live the footage and video of referees consulting and talking on decisions during games. That's obviously done for a lack of confidence in refereeing and to protect the referees as much as possible. Hence why they don't do it in rugby, and you can hear everything that's being said and reviewed at the time. Because of that's happening, sometimes we just forget that referees are normal people. There is nothing on this planet more frustrating than having to abide by a decision that you don't know the person's thought process for making. That is the most frustrating thing in the world. And that lack of communication incites hatred of referees. It does. And ultimately, the fact that we still don't have that, like we get these little snippets from Howard Webb long after they've taken place, and listening to them is actually so refreshing. Yeah, but it's so refreshing. You think, oh, wow, that referee sounds just like my mate Dave down the pub talking about a decision. And you remember that referees are human beings, but we don't get out in the moment. Instead, we have commentators who can hear and are relaying the messages for us. It's making referees so robotic, and therefore it's really hard for us to feel something in their favour. Stop trying to protect them and let us listen. Give us the communication. Because that's the biggest frustration about VAR anyway, by the way. But what that will do is also make us respect and have more time for referees, because we might not agree with every decision they make, but what we will do is we will understand the process and reasoning as to why they've come to their decisions. And that wider issue is a problem, and why, look, it's no letting anybody off for saying what they say on social media, because, Twitter's a pretty toxic place to read comments, and people take responsibility for whatever they write. But ultimately, I think referees need more protection from FIFA, and right now FIFA is going about protecting them in the wrong way. Let's talk about the game, though. It's Southampton versus Liverpool. Anything?
Southampton pretty poor, Liverpool really strong. I feel like the way the season started, I don't want to say it, but maybe title's over already. I think Liverpool nailed on to win it, right?
Do you think so?
Yeah, the way they've been playing, I feel like I've been impressed with them. City, I know they finish well, right? But they need to start winning games, right? We spoke about Arsenal being a bit wobbly. Liverpool, the only one is, they've showed pretty consistent this season, right? Apart from obviously the Forest game. Apart from that, they've been pretty good. Saying that, I think this couldn't be an easy win for them against Southampton. I can't see Southampton. Yeah, getting a result here. Fair enough if they get a result against Liverpool, that'll be impressive, but I can't see it.
Mate, check you out getting off the fence. I love it. You're wrong. You're wrong, though. I mean, I told you 2 weeks ago, Chelsea are going to win the title, 23-1. Shout out to everyone that jumped on. Anyway, I think it's too early to say it personally. I think that there's a lot of football still to be played, and I think Liverpool will go for a sticky patch. It can't go as plain sailing as this all year, and there's good competition that will be chasing them down. But I agree with this game. There's just no other result here. There's no other outcome apart from a Liverpool win. I've scoured the markets trying to find any sort of crumb of value here, and there's none. So it's definitely a leave. If anybody out there is desperate for some sort of bet, I'd probably say Liverpool win to 0. I still don't trust Southampton in forward areas at all. So that would be my only. But the price on that isn't really giving you value either. But I'm just saying if you're desperate for something, if you're desperate for something, you shouldn't be betting. But you know what I mean. Yeah, that would be my tip. Maybe 0-3 would probably be the scoreline. Ipswich United, and we move on to my nap selection of the of the game week. I put out a nap last time, which was Brighton against City, and it landed. So I've been inspired, Lucas, to do a second one. I just think the more I hear from Amorim, I really like. I think this will be a case of new manager bounce. Ipswich's metrics, you'll be the first to tell me, don't look good in terms of how they're playing as a team. Amorim's had a bit of time on the training ground as well already, which is nice. And I just see a new manager bounce here, 100%. It's got it written all over it. It's like the perfect first fixture to come into. And I think that United will win this game comfortably. And you can get United on the Asian handicap at 2.07. I think that's -1, which means that if United win by 1 goal, we get our money back. But I expect United to go on and win this game by 2 or 3, and making us a tidy little winner there at 2.07. And that is my NAP nap selection. Worst case, we break even on it. I don't see any way that we lose.
Really? I mean, yeah. I mean, you should beat Ipswich, but I don't think it's going to be a comfortable win. But we'll see.
Okay. But you think we'll win?
Maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay, he's back on the fence, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let's talk. Anyway, that's my nap. 2.07 United. If you want a bit of a bigger price, then just feel straight to go in at United a little bit higher on the handicap as well. But 2.07 is the show. And final bet of the weekend is a Monday night game. It's Newcastle versus West Ham. What are you thinking?
I mean, I don't rate West Ham at all. Newcastle haven't exactly had the best start to the season, but last few games, I think they're getting better. Like against Forest, they've been impressive. Forest have had a good season. I think they did well against Chelsea. So I feel like it's at home as well. West Ham been pretty poor this season, so I feel like it'd just be a comfortable win from Newcastle. I can't see West Ham getting anything from this at all.
I agree. I think Newcastle have turned a bit of a corner as well. I think it's just worth saying that they're playing a lot better. I think it's a comfortable home win. Very little value in the game.
Yeah.
Probably maybe 2-0. So let's summarise. What bets do you have for our supporters this week?
So I've got another one that we haven't spoke about, which I'll explain in a minute. Pulled something out of my sleeve. But, Bournemouth -1/4 on the Asian handicap. So, again, to recap, if it's a draw, then you get half your money back, and then a win is a win. And then I got Everton-Brentford. I got both teams to score in the first half again, just rolling that on from last week. Price is 4.75, so quite high, I'd say. And something that we haven't spoke about because it's in another league.
Okay.
It's the French league. So I've got Lens -1/4 against Marseille. They're playing at home. That's on the 23rd, so that's on the Saturday as well.
Can you give us any more reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I got Lens like rated quite significantly higher than Marseille, 0.61 goals better. If you look at like the expected points of the season as well, Lens are kind of like they're like fifth on expected points, whereas Marseille are kind of like mid-table, bottom side mid-table sort of thing. So
There you go. All
yeah,
right. Lens versus Marseille. Okay, so there you go. A second tip. I like it. In terms of my
third,
third tip, sorry, yes, third.
quick
From my
maths.
side, I have got obviously our joint tip, which has gone in now,
Oh yeah, forgot about that. Yeah, so yeah, it gets 4.
which is Forest at Arsenal
Yeah.
on the Asian handicap. But in terms of my tips, I've got Chelsea to win and both teams to score
Yeah.
at 7-4. You can also shout my 4-2 scoreline at 22-1 if anybody was bought into that. But anyway, I've got Chelsea to win, both teams to score. I've got Brentford to win at 3.15, but in the ACCA, I'm doing them at the Asian handicap level of 1.87.
Okay.
I've got Spurs to win against City at 6.2, but I'm doing them on the Asian handicap plus 1.25 at 1.83. And finally, I've got United -1 on the Asian handicap at 2.07. So if you want to combine those 4 selections in an accumulator, you can get 18-1. I won't be tipping that up officially, but that is a route for those people out there who enjoy the bigger price. But there are my 4 selections.
Cool. All right. So
Who's gonna who's
quite
gonna
a
win?
few
Who's gonna
tips
win
this
this
week.
this week? Me or you?
I mean, let's hope the run goods continues, right?
Across the board, yeah, because
And yeah,
we beat
obviously,
them.
like you mentioned, keep an eye on Twitter, right? Because we'll be posting some additional tips if we find anything
Yeah, for
close
sure.
to
And also
kickoffs.
keep one last bit of advice is try and keep very consistent in your stakes. Because a few
Yeah.
people I know are saying these boys are the real deal. Definitely, lump on their bets because they're winning and this and that. But things can change at any point. This is a long game. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So make sure that you
Yeah.
are still, basically following your staking plan. You should have a set amount for each point that you bet, and that should remain consistent. So make sure you're doing that. Also means that if we do go on a losing run at any point, you don't immediately give back all of your money because
Yeah.
you started backing too big. So there you have it. Let's hope that we enjoy a few winners here. Look forward to a cracking weekend of football. Deaf to the international break, and look forward to seeing you next week on the
Much.
pod.
All right. Cheers.